All right, so the next track is Dios Es Un Stalker, which is God is a Stalker. I went ahead and read through things, and I'm kind of glad because it definitely informs the understanding of this song and the different things that it's covering. Because she's singing it from the viewpoint of that God is omnipresent and all that, but that those kind of actions are kind of like a stalker who's always watching and always doing those things. So she's singing it, so she's playing that as if it's somewhat farcical, so that it's not like saying, hey, God is a stalker, and being straight ahead with it. But it also comes out to two other things of that people, when they are stalkers, they become that. They are watching you all the time. They're trying to manipulate you into being what it is they want you to be. And the other layer on top of that is that fame is the omnipresent thing that is pervading her entire existence. And it is the stalker because, paparazzi are always watching. They're always looking for all the little dirt that you try to hide about yourself. So all of these things can make you feel like you're being smothered and intruded upon. And so often it's done in the name of love. That love makes it okay that you're doing these things because, who could be against love, right? So really neat. And I'm going to do the vinyl version because it's longer and it's an earlier version, and it's what ended up on, it's about 40 seconds longer and has a different outro and things. So we're going to go with that version.
Yo te sigo, tú improvisa, si vas lento o si vas deprisa, nunca te enteras.
Boy, different than I expected.
Soy tu sombra y esa es mi manera de demostrar que te he pensado y te he extrañado. Yo me sé tus deseos indeseables. Mi aliento es el viento que te roza el pelo. Y por amor estoy detrás de ti, boy. Yo que siempre espero que vengan a mí. No me gusta hacer intervención divina, pero a mi baby yo lo voy a stalkear pa' poderla enamorar. Quiero a mi manera.
Oh, I want to go back to the beginning of this. Because it took me a while to get the count of this song until the other music came in, but it was just in 4, but it did not feel like that at the beginning. And I want to see what her singing, if her singing goes with the 4. So let's go ahead and start it over. I'm just curious.
Yo te sigo, tú improvisa, si vas lento o si vas deprisa, nunca te enteras que soy tu sombra.
Boy, whatever it is, it's really interesting rhythm behind what she's singing. I love that you never realize that I am your shadow, and that is the way. That is my way. Ooh, who would have expected these strings off to the sides here? Ooh, we're gonna get another one. Nice. Ooh, I like it. Let me look at where she is, and I'm not a one-time bitch. I really like a lot of these lyrics because it's saying, that she prefers to wait for others to come to her, but if they don't, then she'll stalk a bitch. She'll make the divine intervention her being ever omnipresent in their life. And eventually they'll come around. So let me see where no. Yeah, I love this line that's coming. It's right now. Depending on which translation you look at, it's basically saying, I'm not a one-night stand. I'm not one and done. She follows it up with, I'm the labyrinth you can't escape. So once it's that one time, I've got my hooks in you and I will make it happen because I go behind you. Oh, that's really neat. Okay, let's get back into it. I really love the feel of this song. It's so interesting. And her delivery is... It's like you could salsa to this. Ooh. And I love where her voice is sitting. Oh, now it sounds much more salsa. But with the little touches of orchestra. Woo. Now, if you like salsa dancing, or if you watch Dancing with the Stars and see salsa and things like that, you can just picture this coming up to a hold. And then the da-da-da, with the da-da-da. And just those little quick movements before getting back into it to just give it that little space and breathing and drama. Really, really neat arrangement. I love this arrangement because it feels like so many things put together into one thing. And her vocals are really smooth. I love the orchestra in with that. Here it is. You can see the little frilly dress going. And now you're back into the little rolls. Ooh. This is so interesting. You hear the little claps again? I'm glad I went with the longer version. And her voice is staying all in this one space. And it works perfectly. Because the music was so dynamic around it that it worked perfectly for that. Really, really cool. I like that one a lot. As far as kind of innovative in a way, that one's up there for me. Because it's such a unique blending of things. And then for her voice to be just kind of riding the wave of it was really nice. Okay, so let's get to the next one. All right, so the best pronunciation I come up with is La Yugular, or it could have been Yalugular. Had it different ways. So this is Arabic and Spanish. And of course the translation is the jugular. So let's find out what we're looking into here. All right, so this one's tricky. This one, ROSALÍA said that this song was inspired by the 8th century Iraqi Sufi saint, or Sufi saint, I'm not sure which, Rabia al-Adawi. That's not even close, probably. It's directly referencing the Quran surah, which translated is, we are closer to them than their jugular vein. Had to put on glasses for that one because so many words that had spellings that would not work out to my slightly blurry eyes. All right, this other one says that this is based on Rabia Basri, who was a former slave mystic and poet from Iraq, the most famous woman in all of Islam. She is known for the doctrine of divine love, which is loving without being motivated by fear or promise of reward. It reads, women have never been so infatuated with themselves as men, nor have they ever claimed divinity. So, there you, and now is the perfect time for that statement, considering what just happened in the last day or so. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And please, I'm not a religious person, but I even find that offensive. Wow, this one starts off strong because it says, how many fights do the lines of my hands remember? Here, I'll do it after we start the song.
Cuántas peleas recuerda las líneas de mis manos. Cuántas historias caben.
I love this little bass.
Metidas en 21 gramos. Tú
Nice swell.
tan lejos
Ooh.
y a la vez más cerca. Tú que
There's that 6
tan lejos
or 3 if you want to count
y a
it that way.
la vez más cerca que mi propia vena yugular.
I love how she just threw Arabic in the middle of all the Spanish. Ooh, pretty, pretty. Okay, that's a good spot to pause because I want to talk about these first couple lines in particular. How many fights do the lines on my hand remember? On my hands remember, which I guess is your lifeline and all that. And then how many stories can fit inside 21 grams, which is referencing some doctor or something along the way who decided that the weight of your soul is 21 grams. If I think that's what it's referencing, and I'll have to look it up to make sure. But I pretty sure that's what it's referencing. So really, right off the bat, really interesting. Wow, these lyrics are great. And she's talking about that divine love and all that, you know, as the basis for it, and it comes through in these lyrics. About, you know, as close as my jugular. And then it gets to, for you I would destroy the sky, for you I would tear down hell. No promises, no threats. Look, I don't have time to hate Lucifer. I'm far too busy loving you. Boy, so many good lines coming up, so let's get back into it. And once again, a great feel. I mean, she's mixing orchestra with all these different things, but the orchestra is like the undertone to the whole album. Ooh.
Estoy demasiado ocupada amándote a ti un nivel, mi corazón que siempre está en una carrera. Estoy cortando las
This is musically fascinating.
que sea primavera, donde hasta los caballos, los míos bien amarrados, la sangre y la suerte, aquí mano arrastrada.
And she's switching back and forth again between Spanish and Arabic. Now back to the acoustic. Wow.
Ayer, hoy y mañana, la nieve en la que me quiero hundir.
You could almost hear her singing these orchestra parts behind herself. This is one of the more beautiful songs so far off of the album. Ooh. Oh, and now we do have a choir. We have acquired a choir. Okay, that's a good place to stop for a second. I want to look at the lyrics again because the lyrics on this one are so interesting to me. Because we've got this, my heart, which is always in a race, I'm cutting flowers before it's even spring. That's a really interesting line. I wonder if that's talking about that you are kind of investing in the relationship before it's fully bloomed, that you're already looking ahead to what it's going to be. And this line here, blood and luck have dragged me here. Your love is an avalanche. Blood and luck. I mean, that's like you've been fighting your way through and facing adversity, but in order to find that loving relationship, sometimes it all comes down to you can't make it happen. It just is a matter of luck. Listen to this line. I fit inside the world and the world fits inside me. What a great line. I occupy the world and the world occupies me. I fit inside a haiku, and a haiku fills a country. Wow. She wrote some really neat lyrics in this one. Ooh, a country fits inside a splinter. A splinter fills the entire galaxy. And I wonder if what's that saying is that, you know, as massive as a country may feel, in the grand scheme of things, it's no bigger than a sliver. You know, just a splinter. And when you look at an entire galaxy, that is really neat. A whole galaxy fits inside a drop of saliva. A drop of saliva fills Fifth Avenue. Fifth Avenue fits inside a piercing. I guess it's all a matter of your perspective of the world or the galaxy or the universe. Sometimes a drop of saliva can be your entire world if it's maybe shared, you know. All right, sorry I'm getting so caught up in the lyrics of this one, but the lyrics are so fascinating that why would you not? A piercing fills a pyramid, and a pyramid fits inside a glass of milk. And then we get down here to a continent cannot fit inside him, but he fits inside my chest. And my chest holds his love, and in his love I want to lose myself. And once again, it's all a matter of perspective of how big a thing something is, whether it's materially this big or whether in the way it makes you feel it can fill your entire universe. So I think that's kind of where we're going with that. And then apparently it's going to end in English. So we've got 3 different languages in this song. She is a brilliant woman. All right, let's get back to it. And I like the different movements within this. And then bringing in the choir, that was really neat. Ooh, some timpani.
Yo ocupo el mundo, el mundo me ocupa a mí. Yo quepo en un haiku, y un haiku ocupa un país. Un país cabe en una astilla ocupa la galaxia entera.
These words sound so nice coming out of her here.
Una gota de saliva, una gota de saliva.
It just
La quinta avenida, la quinta avenida.
comes off her tongue in such a neat way.
Ocupa una pirámide. Y una pirámide cabe en un vaso de leche y un vaso de leche ocupa un ejército.
And notice now the swells are different instruments.
Una pelota de golf ocupa el Titanic cabe en su pintalabios ocupa el cielo los pinos, unos pinos ocupan continente y un continente no cabe en él, pero él cabe en mi pecho. Mi pecho ocupa su amor, en su amor me quiero perder.
God, her voice is so embodying what she's saying.
7 heavens, big deal. I want to see the 8th heaven, 10th heaven, 1000th heaven. You know, it's like break on through the other side. It's just like going through one door. One door isn't enough. 1,000,000 doors aren't enough.
Ooh. All right, so this next song is one of the bonus tracks on the vinyl. Okay, so this one is pronounced Focu Ranni, which of course I can't roll my R's better than that. as I've told you, which translates to big fire. And it's in Spanish and Sicilian and inspired by Saint Rosalia of Palermo. So her namesake. Rosalia was an Italian saint who called off her wedding the night before she was supposed to be married, then withdrew to a cave to live as a hermit. Apparently, this one was supposed to be a collaboration with Lady Gaga, as both of them have had broken engagements, but it ended up not happening. Boy, the lyrics on this one really sound very personal from her side of breaking the engagement, and say, because she's got this better to speak now than silence me forever, saying that if she had married him, then her voice would have been lost because she would no longer have her individuality in a way. It's funny, it really basically sounds like she decided, after the engagement, that she needed to be by herself, that she wouldn't be accepted for who she was by the person she was marrying. And so in throwing herself into nothingness, she was being accepted by the only one who would accept her unconditionally, which was probably God. So I think that's kind of what she's saying here. And that sometimes you have to blow up your life in order to free yourself. So really, really interesting. Let's go ahead and jump into this one. Oh, I like that this one's a modern feel with the strings, but using modern effects.
Ya yo me solté la coleta, quería ir de blanco y fui de violeta. La arena que en tus manos la sujetas resbala de tus puños y la aprietas. Mejor hablar ahora que callarme para siempre. Y puedo decir que estoy en paz por mi lado. No seré tú mismo.
Let me find the lyrics real quick. I really love the more techno feel over top of the strings.
Ya yo me solté la coleta, quería ir de blanco y fui de violeta.
Ooh, I love this range for her voice.
It's
like a hug.
Resbala de tus puños y la aprietas. Mejor hablar ahora que callarme para siempre. Y puedo decir que estoy en
Oh, I like the hopefulness coming up in the music as she's ending the engagement in a way.
Nunca de tu propiedad seré mía y de mi libertad. Lo que se construyó con amor es más difícil de
I love how it's...
olvidar, pero habrá fuegos que...
I love the way it started off with like resignation, and then this hopefulness started coming up in the music as she chose to not go through with the wedding and to basically hold on to her individuality and hold on to her freedom, which she felt she would lose. It's so well written. And I love the fact that she did so much of this, like she said, 97% of this she wrote herself. Really, really cool. All right. And the mix of instruments and all that is really neat too. This is a really nice place for her voice. It's one of my favorites. It gives her lots of places to go with it. It's now become like a celebration, you know?
Ya nadie tirará rosa al cielo. Ya no habrá borrachera ni flores. Ya no habrá nadie
And now it just
que
pulls back to-
bendiga un amor que en verdad desconoce. Grabé tu nombre
What a
en
neat
mis
da-da-da-da,
costillas,
da-da-da-da,
pero mi corazón
da-da-da-da
nunca
behind her
estuvo
there.
con
It was neat.
iniciales. Tarde o temprano el destino te golpea, aunque ignores sus señales.
Ooh.
Tu me Focu Ranni, billetta y un talón en ti, pero el perdón.
Ooh, I think now she's in Italian.
La libertad. L'amore senza legge è l'unico che ci tasse. Via con talenti prima da bruciare.
I wonder if she went into Italian in those lines because it was basically then about loving yourself enough to make the... Wow. Wow. That was unexpected. I'm assuming that's part of the music, that it wasn't just a glitch in the file, but maybe it was. But yeah, what I was saying, I feel like that going to, you know, Italian is kind of a language of love, you know, and I just feel like that was her intent going to Italian there. It's really, really neat. All right, so the next one we have is Sauvignon Blanc. So that one is on the CD. All right, so this one is inspired by Saint Teresa of Avila. Another nun, 16th century nun, who renounced her wealth and wrote of divine intoxication, hence the wine metaphor. And thank you again to the author of this article about this, because it's been very, very helpful. Oh, wow, this is really interesting. The song represents a sort of detachment from the material world, and ROSALÍA said it was a dedication to desiring less, in quotes. Let us see how this one goes. Let me read the lyrics real quick. It feels like what the lyrics are saying in this one is basically, I will let go of all the material things that I've had up to now and let go of my past. And just sitting with you with a glass of wine is all I need. And my future will be brighter for letting all of those things go. So now we can just appreciate this and see how she interprets it into the music. Haven't heard a whole lot of piano on a lot of tracks.
Mi luz la prenderé con el Rolls Royce que quemaré. Sé que mi paz yo me ganaré cuando no quede nada que perder. Ya no quiero perlas ni caviar. Tu amor será mi capital. ¿Y qué más da si te tengo a ti? No necesito
I like how delicate
nada más.
her voice is here.
Sauvignon Blanc a tu lado, mi futuro será dorado. Ya no tengo miedo del pasado, está en el fondo de mi copa de Sauvignon Blanc.
Ooh.
En mi copa.
Okay, the thing I want to comment on here, and I won't play the whole opening for you, but when it started out, I thought, oh man, the piano, this one sounds like a really low track. She started off with such delicate sound, and the piano started off so low to give it room to fill out the dynamics, and as it started to build, those bassier notes came in and just started to really fill out the sound. Really, really neat. But here, listen. See how delicate that piano is there? And it allows her to be delicate. And then as we move ahead,
Ya no quiero
And right here we start a little more pressure. Really great dynamics from both of them. And here we go. Now when you start giving a little more, once again, it becomes more hopeful here. Saying, you know, this is, I'm happy with this. Your love will be my capital. That's neat. I love that. I love that he's going with arpeggiated notes here. And now some strings come in. The more she lets go, the more full her life is becoming. At least that's the way I take it. And here she chosen, she says, I will listen to God, to my God. Is that choir coming in? Ooh. Oh, I'm going to go back on there. That was all one note, all one breath, and beautifully done. Boy, the build on this song is beautiful. And you can feel what she's singing. It's one of those, you know, like with Dimash, a lot of times I'll hear songs, don't understand a word of it, but I can feel the emotion of what he's singing and feel what the words are trying to convey. But listen to the note coming up. Right here. Ooh, that is hard to do. Do all of that pushing on one note and then hold it quietly at the end while you're still in that same breath. Really good. Wow, that was a beautiful song. All right, so now we are to Jeanne, which when I looked at it, I thought it was Jeanne, but it is Jeanne because it's French. And the saint this time, or the person, is Joan of Arc. And apparently in France, it's Jeanne d'Arc. So Jeanne d'Arc is in French, is what it's telling me. Don't know if that's definitely true, but that's what it says. Most of us know the story of Joan of Arc and how she was called to serve God and became, I believe, the head of the army. But all of this was before she was 19 years old when she was burned at the stake. And the lyrics of this one are basically saying that, you know, she will give herself over to this calling. And that one of the lines I really like about it is, and it'll be coming up, since this one is in Spanish and French, I won't understand it, so I'll just go ahead and tell you now. It says, I will be neither a man nor a woman. It is my heart that names me. So it's basically saying that your identity isn't specified by your gender. It's by who you are inside. That is your true self, not your gender one way or the other, which is really an interesting, and it should just be a common sense given that who you are inside is who you are, not color of your skin, your gender, any of that. It's just who you are. So we're going to jump into this. I'm really curious because I love Joan of Arc. And if you've never seen the Mila Jovovich version, I think it's The Messenger. That's my favorite telling of story of Joan of Arc. Let's go ahead and jump into this one. And she's going to be saying, surrender yourself because there is no way, a better way to love than to annihilate oneself.
Entrégate, que no hay manera mejor.
I love this low range for her.
Que aniquilarse. Et qui serais-je? C'était décidé. La voix d'un homme.
Ooh, nice swell there.
s'est révélée. Lloraba de madrugada. La vida es breve, se arrebatada.
Are those cellos that are doing the build? Ooh, now some like French horns. Ooh, this must be the part of her entrusting herself to God, although that might have been earlier. Sorry, I have to pause it somewhere in here. Yeah, and coming up, we get to this part. Standing, you will give birth to light, and the flames will destroy the cross. Because, like I say, she was burned. And the sword has abandoned me, my father. So she's letting herself over at that point and saying that in fulfilling what she did in the name of her God, that when she's burned at the end, that it is just her moving on and fulfilling that destiny. As it says, if I leave you, I am invited to lay down arms without giving up my soul. So she's saying that even though she fought and did all of those things, it was all in his name. And so she never gave up her soul in all of the things that she was doing. So really, really neat. And I actually really like this one a lot. The way they're using the cellos, and it sounded like something else in there towards the beginning. I'm going to have to look into that. I love that. Here come the flames. Ooh, like that staticky feel there. Ooh. And that's where she's speaking to God, saying that she'll be neither man nor woman. Wow. This is different than anything on the album, and I really like it. The little twinkling. I didn't expect her vocals to become the background here. That's really neat. She's basically an instrument in the orchestra at this point. feels like the moments that the flames are taking her and she's starting to ascend. And you hear the lilting lightness of her voice there at the end, almost like all of the agony and strife that she had to go through up to that point. And then when the flames finally took her and she was released, that there was a lightness to her tone. Really, really neat representation of that story. So, well done. All right. Now we are to Novia Robot. And it's in Spanish, Mandarin Chinese, and Hebrew. All right, so this one's based on two different women. Miriam, a Jewish prophetess who appears in the Bible, and Sun, who is a Chinese poet and wife. And I'll go into their stories in the written part. But the thing they have in common is that they both rebelled against the way things are supposed to be and did their own thing. They were rebellious types, and ROSALÍA has described herself as rebellious in interviews and all that. So it only makes sense. And the title being basically Robot Girlfriend is saying, look, I'm not going to be just what you want me to be when you want me to be it. I'm going to be all of the things that make up who I am. And a lot of that is rebellious in nature. And so you're just going to have to deal with the fact that I'm a real person. I'm not just a vision of what you want out of a girlfriend. And it was inspired too by she was saying that there are a lot of these robot girlfriends with female forms and all that being made now. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this one and see how it is. It sounds interesting because it has a little spoken entrance into the song. So, okay, so the opening is saying, welcome to robotics with a K, a world of robotic feminine fantasy made for a pleasure of the opposite sex, a true armed robbery of identity, freedom, and power where all of us are invited. And whoever says invited means obligated, forced hostages, and prisoners. With any of your purchases, you will get a warranty because our policy is always to please you and make you happy, whatever the cost, whatever it may cost. Proud to be the most successful company of 2025, the one that earns the most and harms our sisters the most. Long live the electronic puchena. Putania? No, pussy. So, so it's just a satirical play on the word pussy.
Bienvenidos a Robóticas con K, un mundo de fantasía robótica femenina hecha para el placer del sexo opuesto. Un auténtico robo de identidad, libertad y poder a mano armada donde todas somos invitadas.
I'm assuming this part's in Mandarin Chinese.
Obligadas, forzadas, rehenes,
Or maybe not.
prisioneras. Con cualquiera de tus
Maybe it
compras
just
tienes una
sounds that way.
garantía porque nuestra póliza siempre es para quedar bien y hacerte feliz tenga el coste que tenga.
No, it looks like
Orgullosa de ser
Spanish.
La empresa con mayor éxito en 2025, que más factura y más daño
Ah,
hace a
it is in
todas
Spanish.
nuestras hermanas. ¡Que viva la Electronic Puchaina! Bienvenidos a Robóticas con K, un mundo de fantasía robótica femenina hecha para el placer.
It's funny that this part I think is in Spanish and yet it sounds, you know, very Asian in the delivery and voice.
Y quien dice invitadas dice obligadas, forzadas.
I like the kind of distorted sound behind it.
Con cualquiera de tus compras tienes una garantía porque nuestra póliza siempre es para quedar bien y hacerte feliz tenga el coste que tenga.
I mean, it's piano, but it has a
Orgullosa de ser
distortion
la
to
empresa
it.
con mayor éxito en 2025, que más factura y más daño hace a todas nuestras hermanas. ¡Que viva la Electronic Puchaina! ¿Quién hermano es para lo mismo? Para lo mismo. Y este manual para los tuyos, los tuyos, los tuyos. Ya me liberé,
Ooh.
te liberé,
Didn't see that coming.
me liberé,
And now we're just into nice, more of a technological but drum sound. You know what's interesting about this is it feels like electronic orchestra. Like these are cellos and all that, but with a little bit of a sawtooth kind of sound mixed in, you know, like a synthy sound. So it's kind of a blending of the two. So she's still sticking to her orchestral arrangement in a way, but using modern technology, you know, modern sounds to get the same effect. Really, really interesting. She said she had a real challenge with the Chinese.
Soy la diva, soy de Lulu. Tapo lo que él mataría y él dice que hay un trofeo que quiero por el que compito y ando soñando.
Boy, give her credit for tackling
Todo el
this.
mundo me va a brillar. Hay un llavero que quiero colgarlo. Con él abriré todas las puertas que pueda encontrar. Y mi florero favorito no es el de gata, no. Es la gata que yo tengo al lado.
And to switch back and forth, and she's going to have to do this live. Oh. See, that's just like a distorted cello. That's so cool. Picking up more of an orchestral sound now. I guess now we're into the Hebrew. That's a little nod to the other person that's the inspiration for this. Wow. She is, boy, so many songs have such a different feel to them. We're getting into the home stretch now, guys. All right, guys, so we're 3 away from finishing up the album, and we're on La Rumba Del Perdón. I went ahead and went through the lyrics. This one isn't really assigned to a saint so much, but it is all about forgiveness. And I mean, all the lyrics basically lay out all these things that are being done that are really crappy things to do to somebody, and it's betrayal and actual violence and all these different things, but saying that all these things can be forgiven. And it could be that she's looking at this as saying that God forgives, and if God can forgive, so can she. Let's go ahead and jump into it, see how it goes. Oh, and this is with 2 other people. This song is also with Estela Morente and Sylvia Perez Cruz. I don't know that I'll be able to tell the sound of their voices apart because it's 3 different women, and ROSALÍA can sound so different doing different things. So I will just say this singer. So let's go ahead and jump in.
Pero algo pasó.
I like the one guitar being just on one side.
En tu cajón, y de pura envidia, alguien te lo robó. Es tu mejor
Ooh, I like that.
amigo, el que tocaba la guitarra. ¿Qué será lo que pasó? Que de golpe la guitarra ya no sonaba.
Ooh.
No sonaba el teléfono. No sería
I like them
tan
dropping out the
amigo
strums
cuando
and going to
de la
these long
guitarra.
notes.
De las primeras al bordón, y ahí dentro metió el kilo, y igual que el kilo, él también desapareció. Pero yo, toditos te los perdono. Toditos te
Ooh.
los perdono.
I love them using these big orchestral drums in some of these.
Toditos te los perdono.
Well, this is a lively one. Very. Ooh.
Cuando
That was
dijiste
nice.
voy a bajar por tabaco, mirando a los ojos a tu hija
Wow.
menor, le prometiste
Using the orchestra in a different way again.
y nunca volviste a cruzar el umbral de la puerta por la que te fuiste. Pero just not.
I want to hear that transition again. And I really like how many different ways she's using the orchestra. It had to be fun for them in a way, but she's using them really in unique ways. I really love it. And then we're back to the guitar. With guitar on one side and orchestra on the other. It was really different. Really nice climb and
Yo sé
fall.
que tú eres pa' mí. Yo sé que tú eres pa' mí. Yo sé que tú eres pa' mí. Yo sé que vendrás a mí. Dice la calle que tú eres pa' mí. Dice quién sabe que tú eres pa' mí. Se dice en la
It's so funny that she's willing to forgive all of that and say, I know you were meant for me and I know you'll come back to me. Ooh, I really like the arrangement on this one. It is so interesting. I like the split chorus. With a pretty dry guitar right in the middle, really
Tienes
nice.
sangre metida en las venas. Primero viene el veneno y luego la pena. La que piensas que puede escaparse del plan divino.
El que le está gritando del quinto al cuarto a su vecino.
Really playing with tempos
La que
and
siempre está dando
and
muela y en
rhythms in this too.
habladurías. El que nunca dice lo que piensa aunque debería. El que me dejó a mí antes que dejó
And now I'm
su
picturing a
botella.
Roomba with this, and that would be interesting. That would be really
Y la
interesting.
rabia la muerde a ella. Cuando el poder pesa más que el amor.
Hold on. Was that? I want to hear that again. I think it threw in a little harmony there and all that. And I'm not doing very well discerning who's singing what part or anything.
El que nunca dice lo que piensa aunque debería. El que me dejó a mí antes que dejar su botella. El que se muerde los puños de rabia. Y la
Yeah, there we
rabia la
go.
muerde a ella.
And I like the mix of pizzicato strings and then the long bowed parts.
Cuando el miedo está en ti y el deseo a tu alrededor. El que mató a puñalas y el pulso ni le tembló. Clava el cuchillo tan hondo que lo perdió.
This is one of the more interesting arrangements, and I really like it.
Pero sigue pecando. Cuando has mentido
Woo!
por tu edad.
Cuando has querido más de lo que Dios te ha querido dar.
I love the emotion behind the cello playing there.
Para hacerlo como se debe, tres cosas necesitarás.
Ooh.
Fuego en las manos, ternura en los ojos.
I can just picture Wednesday playing this.
Técnicamente eso sería un trío, pero si solo miro no contará.
What a neat choice to go down to just her with the cello at the end. It's really, really neat.
Ainda te lembro.
And it's funny how it just jumps right into the next one, right in the same kind of range. And so now we are to Memória. So let's look into this one a little bit. So, of course, that's Memory. Oh, and if I didn't mention it on the last song, it was the Rumba of Forgiveness. I think I did, but I'm not sure. All right, let's look into Memory real quick. This one's in Spanish and Portuguese and inspired by confession. It's the only song on the album that was not written by ROSALÍA, but she felt it was perfect for the album's closing movement. So there you go. Now it does say that she did the music for this. This one's with Carmino, and she's a Portuguese singer. So apparently Carmino invited ROSALÍA to collaborate on her album. But ROSALÍA felt a deep connection to the material, and she believed the song aligned with the thematic universe of Lux. And Carmino wrote all the lyrics for it. So let's go ahead and jump in.
Lembras de mim, ainda sabes de onde eu vi.
Ooh, I like that low note
Que
there.
sou esta que aqui estou.
Ooh, I like that.
Diz-me no meu olhar triste que alguma memória existe. E ainda sabes quem sou.
Beautiful voice. A richness
Diz-me se
to it.
ainda tropeço, se me alegro, se agradeço, ou se
Really pretty.
ainda sei cantar. Recorda-me, por favor.
Is that the chorus
Alguma
back there?
coisa, o que for, que eu não consigo lembrar.
I love the very minimal guitar work back there. It was nice to let the voice shine.
Vai comigo pela cidade, diz-me com sinceridade se tu te lembras de mim.
I love the chorus behind her.
Onde cresci, amei, com quem vivi e me dei, ou se a algo eu pus fim. Será que tu me conheces? Que o tempo passa e não esqueces quem eu fui, sou enfim.
Ooh. Okay, I want to run back here. I want to hear when the piano came in because it was a beautiful moment. And I also want to look the lyrics over real quick. Yeah, lyrically, this one feels like it could be one of two things to me. And it could be that she's singing this kind of to herself and saying that she barely remembers who she was. That who she is, you know, it's become so, you know, it's in the present, and so who she was feels like it's falling away and she's forgetting herself. But it could also be somebody who's nearing the end when their memory is starting to fade and all that, and they just want someone to remember them, and they're not sure if they do remember because they have forgotten things about themselves and all that. They just want to know that someone else remembers them. Let's go ahead and get back into it. Really, really beautiful lyrics, by the way. Okay, I want to hear that piano come in.
Ou se a algo eu pus fim.
The piano comes in so
Será que tu me conheces?
seamlessly.
Que o tempo passa e não esqueces quem eu fui.
I love that even the chorus fell on the notes with her.
Oh, meu doce coração.
I love that these are
Diz
subtle
você
swells.
sabes ou não, ainda te lembras de mim?
Siempre que me acuerdo
Beautiful
de algo,
arrangement.
siempre lo recuerdo un poco diferente. Y sea como sea ese
Ooh.
recuerdo, siempre es verdad.
So pretty together.
En mi mente.
Now we
Y
got
si
harp.
mi alma se derrama y la falta de pasado es el olvido. Cuando muera solo pido no olvidar lo que viví. Será que tu me conheces? Que o tempo passa e não esqueces que eu faço.
God, I love this arrangement. It's
Oh, meu doce coração, diz-me se sabes ou não, ainda te lembras de mim.
I think it's the prettiest song on the album. Wow. Wow. Okay. We're to Magnolias. Sorry about Ash here. But he was starting to drive me nuts wanting to go outside. All right. Let's check on Magnolias and what it's about. And I believe it is the last song on the album. It's in Spanish, inspired by Anandamayi, who was an Indian saint, teacher, and mystic who was considered the epitome of divine grace. Or epitome, if you've never seen the word, or, you know, if you don't know the word and then you just see it written and you're like, what is an epitome? This person said, talking about this song, ROSALÍA said she would rather people have a party and be joyful when she dies, which is reflected in both the lyrics and music. It sounds like a funeral procession, but an uplifting one. Wow. All right, so this one basically is that. It's basically talking about dying and then having people celebrate over her grave and all that, and celebrate her life more so than mourn it. So let's get into it. Nice starting with clarinet, right?
Dicen que si vieras pasar a tu lado la muerte,
Ooh.
en la Mercedes, la que se alarga, te da buena suerte. Todos saben.
It does sound more joyful than mournful.
Hasta mis enemigos hoy lloran.
Ooh, love that note.
Tírame
I want to hear that note again, all the way through.
hasta mis enemigos hoy lloran. Tírame
The fact that she had it fall once, then pause, then fall again. Beautiful.
Magnolias, tírame magnolias, tírame magnolias.
Ooh. What an interesting layering of harmonies there.
Sobre
Kind
mi
of discordant in a way.
temes quemando rueda, lágrimas y goma se derrite en la madera.
Love that.
Gasolina y vino tinto, puros y chocolates, bailando con amor encima de mi cadáver.
I know we just got into the big part. I want to hear what she did right before it went into that, because that was gorgeous. It's the way she works into swells and then back into really delicate moments. Gotta love it.
Burlando la suerte y lo que no hice en vida, lo hacéis en mi vida.
How beautiful was that? This sounds exactly like what the song is. As she's starting to ascend, but it's a joyous thing, and she's going to meet God. Because I think she said meet him halfway. Oh, that's so appropriate.
Algún que otro navajazo me he llevado de la vida. Ella a mí me desarmó y yo le estoy agradecida. Y lanzará azúcar moreno
There's like a
sobre mi
push and
ataúd.
pull
Quedaros despiertos hasta que
to so
vuelva
much of the
otra
music
vez
and
la luz.
lyrics.
Promete que me protegerás a mí y a mi nombre en mi ausencia. Yo que
That was a
vengo de
pretty
las
note going down with a little breath.
estrellas, hoy me convierto en polvo para volver con ella.
I like that it ends with her kind of fading into the distance. It's just, wow. This album was a journey, and I loved every minute of it. I will be putting, like I say, a lot of facts down in there, so hopefully you read them. And I'm going to leave it at that. There's not a whole lot more to say other than this was an exceptional album put together by an exceptional woman. So I will be doing more ROSALÍA, going back into her catalog some and things like that. So until then, you guys have a great day, great night, and great life.